shot, but I got the reach. Pop, lock, now I'm off the leash. Mic drop, I ain't gotta preach. I just do what comes natural. 5-star, everything I see. Live large, no apology. Take charge, no one can compete. I just do what comes natural.
Guess what, guys? We had the opportunity to go to the University of Maryland. We had the opportunity to attend the Create National Conference. And there was amazing guests. And I can't wait to share all the interviews that we got to sit down and to pick the professional brains of great information that we are bringing to the peers. So you guys buckle up and be ready for this awesome show.
Different things, and the day has just been going by so great. But I think Dan has something that he's going to share with us this morning that many of you may have a aha moment. You know, one of those moments that you say, okay, that's what they were talking about. You know, Dan, tell us a little bit more about Greater Teams and how did you come up with that concept?
Greater Teams started about 2 years ago after 30 years between the Marine Corps and the FBI. First as an infantry officer, leading Marines, and then about 21 years with the Bureau.
Best of the best. I'm sorry. Get carried away.
So about 2 years ago, after I left the Bureau, I started Greater Teams as a way to share the lessons that I've learned during that time about how to build and lead great teams. And so it's just 30 years ago.
Those two entities alone, team concept, you can't touch that with those two entities. When you're talking about the Marine Corps by itself, and then you couple that in or infuse that in with a mindset coming from the Bureau, oh man, you're talking about a strong force. So what's some of the work that you have had opportunity to do, or some of the folks you've had an opportunity to work with, and helping them understand and build greater teams?
So it started initially with college sports teams, spoke at a few conferences, started working with high school sports teams, and it has since branched out to now where I work with private business of any sector. I work with church leadership groups. So anywhere there's a leadership team or a team. So that's where I started. That's what I'm doing right now.
And so when you say team, what exactly are you putting together? What does that mean?
So I like to talk about not just a collection of people. You know, I like talking about the great teams that I was on, separated themselves from everybody else through a number of characteristics that I've picked up. And so that's my focus is, how do you take a good team and make them great? How do you take an average team and make them great? My focus is more on the intangibles. None of the characteristics I talk about have anything to do with talent. It's about all those other things that tie people together that create a synergy amongst the team under.
Oh, that sounds great.
You know, he brought up a word there that took me back a minute, but I'm going to skip over that because I get caught up in a whole different conversation. But let's focus more on the synergy part.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about synergy, let's think of it from the perspective of how does let's use the church. How does a church leader start to build that synergy within their following or within their leadership group or within their team?
Sure. Well, you take any organization, in this case, a large church that has several pastors on staff. Everybody is focused, everybody's committed, everybody is selfless. And it's about how do we find those intangible links that tie them all together where they can capitalize on one another's strengths, where they can cover for one another. And it's really about making everybody else aware of what everybody else is doing, and drawing out. For me, it's a selflessness piece. It's all about selflessness, and it's not about me. It's about me being a part of something greater.
Exactly, being able to work with and through each other, right? And that's the key to it all. You know, you have
Oh, I was just gonna say, you know, in the sports world, as far as us sports moms, what is it that we can do as a community of moms to create this team of support for our kids? How do we do stuff like that? You know, because I come from a community of DeSoto, and we have like 300 kids on the program. Well, we may have 50 moms or parents. And so I'm like, what is it that could bring out the rest of people to support their kids to create this team of parents? You know, we focus on the team for the kids being a team, but the parents have to come together and be a team in order to support the team, to be that example. How do we do that?
Well, I think a couple of the things like I'll talk about tomorrow, one that comes to mind immediately is communication. You know, where I say communication is not an event, it's a process. And it is great teams over communicate. You start with, it's the verbal, it's the nonstop, it's sharing information. It gets to the point where you can go deeper and the nonverbal cues take on greater significance. So sharing what you're seeing, what you're feeling, how things are going, what we could do better, what are we doing right? You know, so often we talk about what do we need to do better? Why don't we talk about what we're doing right so that we can continue to do that as we move forward? And then the other big piece that comes to mind is trust. Great teams, there is an inherent level of trust. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody is a best friend, but there's a trust built on experience and actions, not so much on what we say, but what we do.
I truly can relate to that, you know, spending 20 years in the Marine Corps myself, I can relate to that experience and actions and helping bring together that group of guys that I was scratching my head sometimes, you know, and even more so, I'm trying not to go down this route, but I'm being pulled in that direction. But, you know, I had a chance to work at Paris Island for a while, at the senior drill, of course. And, you know, I think about those 65 young men standing in the middle of that squad bay. I'm saying to myself, how am I going to bring all this together so at the end of the day, we're moving and functioning as one instead of 65 individuals that came from various parts up and down the East Coast. You know, so that really hit me hard, and that triggered me and kept shaking me up. And I think on the very last platoon I had a chance to work, it clicked. And I said, okay, and it's probably right along the same lines of what you're doing and how you're doing it, but a different terminology. The right combination. I had to find the right combination. What is the combination to get him involved, to get him involved, to get him involved, to get all of them have something in common. I had to find that right combination. So in doing so, we were able to be successful, highly successful. I think I made Marine Corps history and don't know it, but I'll claim it for right now. You know, I started with 67. I graduated 65. And the only reason why I graduated 65 instead of the 67, 2 of them were reservists and had to get back to school. So I would have graduated all 67. Had never been done before, from the day one when you picked them up to the day one to their graduation 13 weeks later. Had never been done before. So, yeah. So I think I have a very, very good grasp of the team concept, but there's probably some Had I known you earlier, I would have had a few, when you talk about that, and you talk about, the greater team, and that part by itself, adding in that word greater, that takes it outside of the sport, that takes it outside of the, just a regular community group. You talk about a bigger picture, you talk about all-encompassing picture where you got everybody feeding into it. And I'm assuming that's kind of sort of along the same lines as you move.
It is, and to both of your points, I have a bias in all of this, and it is that selflessness is the number one thread of the greatest teams I've ever been a part of. And it influences everything else. And it's often said that selflessness means not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. I take that, and I believe it's at a different level. I believe it's an action word, selflessness. And so it's not just me thinking of you more, but as your teammate, the challenge I give every team, whether it's a church, it's a cyber defense business, it's a high school baseball team, is today, I want you to spend all of your energy and your time making your teammates look great. Don't worry about your stats, your numbers, your production. So for your team of the moms, make your teammates look great. And can you just imagine what it would be like if everybody on the team
Exactly.
did that?
Exactly.
And I don't know what making them look great in your role means. That's more rhetorical,
Right.
Which is best. But when everybody adopts that approach, your numbers, your stats, all that takes care of itself.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's the word that Christian we minimize it. We thank you for joining us today. How can folks follow you and keep up with the work that you're doing, and give us some pointers on what parents need to think about moving forward as they develop their team even within their own household?
I'd love to have conversations with everybody. Dan at Greater Teams is my email. Greaterteams.com is the website. The new edition should go live today or tomorrow. I'm being told. You can follow me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I am on Twitter, but I don't spend a whole lot of time on there right now because I am a business of one.
Understood.
And,
Understood.
Maybe someday I can hire somebody else to help me.
Exactly. I know that feeling. I know that. Why don't you tweet more? Hey, well, I have other things to do.
Right.
I have people to see, places to go, and fires to put out. And hey, and so what would be one good pointer, or you can give us three if you have three, that you would share with parents?
Of athletes?
Just parents.
Parents in general.
Yeah.
As a parent of a high school, now a college baseball player myself, who has been on teams, I think it's the support of that athlete outside of the sport.
Okay.
Who they are outside of the sport they play or outside of the activities and the clubs they're involved in. And I really think, I talk about selflessness all the time. So much of that starts at home or in the community, of promoting, because the culture we live in doesn't promote selflessness. And so anything you can do to talk about, what are you doing for other people who need a hand, other people who need help. What a great lesson to learn for young people these days.
Awesome. So true. So true. So true. Ms. Karen?
No, I love it. I'm going to take that back, that selflessness. I'm going to take that back. I think that's kind of like where I've been going. I've been promoting everybody else. And so I'm believing that I'm going to reap the harvest of that soon. But thank you so much. I appreciate the wisdom and the knowledge that you gave us here on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. My honor.
Hey, no, it's been our honor, sir. We got to take the piece on that. But this is M.A. Scott, the host of the Coach the Parents Network. We're here with Mr. Dan McGee, and he has shared some information that will provide you with a greater team. Now, on that note, it's been fun. It's been real fun. We'll see you soon. We gonna conclude this afternoon here at the Parents Coach Parents Network, assisted by Can We Talk Sports, straight out of DeSoto. Please don't start dancing. Can We Talk Sports out of DeSoto, Texas? But we're gonna conclude today's conference with someone I think that really closed out the last day on a very high note. Some things that he shared I thought was very powerful, especially going to the educators, some of the parents, or educators, and some of the folks out there are parents. When he talked about building relationships, when he talked about educating the constituents, when we talked about the development piece, all of that brings what we've done here today together and made it a full circle. So without further ado, folks, we got Dr. Jamel, correct? Was that, yeah. That's it. And we're gonna go through just a few questions. We ain't gonna hold you long, Doc, because you've been here probably all day, been in many conversations all day long, so we're gonna keep it real short. All right? No doubt. All right, we appreciate you coming in, stopping in. Just to tell you just a little bit, the Parents Coach Parents Network, we started probably about 15 years ago, just talking to parents in the athletic space, helping them understand how to get their kids through sports, anything from recreation all the way through the professional level. A conversation that's often missed. Ms. Karen and I, we both agreed on that. And I talk from a very first-hand experience with my own, right over my shoulder, as always. I keep them right there. And just to make sure that information that I'm sharing this is from a very real experience. And Karen has her own experience that she'd like to share as well. Karen, do you have anything before we get started with grilling the doc?
Well, I just want to start with soccer because soccer is not necessarily, I don't know if it's a Black sport. And so how do we get our kids more into that sport?
Well, soccer is a Black sport. There's probably more people of color playing soccer than not. So, again, I've got experience in working in NFL, collegiate space, et cetera. What you find out from those spaces, particularly here domestically, is that you go from, again, in my NFL days, working from the number one sport in this country to the number one sport in the world. So more people will watch the World Cup and be engaged in soccer than anybody else outside, in the world. You start looking at our demographics in Major League Soccer, we got players represented from over 75 countries. The Black population specifically is around knocking up on a little bit over 20%, probably a little bit over 25%. Our Hispanic population is a little bit over 30%. So it's definitely increasing. If you look at our U.S. men's national team right now, and they're starting 11, you're probably going to have about 7 to 8 brothers out there kicking and rock around. So if you're not paying attention to it, and you start looking at data and statistics around kids who are playing sport, a lot of Black kids start playing soccer early on.
See, I always thought about it being a sport in another country, not necessarily. I thought football was more of the United States sports. And so my mom, I come from Arkansas, we didn't have soccer. I didn't even really know about soccer. I knew about basketball and football, but I didn't know about soccer. So I think that's where I was coming from as far as the main sport in the United States.
Yeah. So, we strategy to really grow the game. Doing interviews like this, is that we want to build more Black fans. We've got partnerships with 100 Black men, the National Coalition of 100 Black women, things that we're doing with them. We've got a partnership with the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And so there's a lot of things that we've been doing to grow the game. And then we've got our BPC, our Black Players for Change group, which started during the pandemic after all the George Floyd drama. So at the end of the day, that's what, we do. If you guys are looking at, player demonstrations and the protests, we had probably one of the largest protests that ever took place. We had over 130 or 150 of our players all at once in the bubble. Again, we were the first team to go in the bubble, that did something in conjunction with our league from a player demonstration standpoint to show solidarity, that this is something that's important to us. So again, we've got a very strong Black presence of players who are in our league, and this is a viable opportunity for young people to get involved with to play the game.
Good. Well, you know, you mentioned something in the panel discussion, and I touched on it in the opening, but I want to go back and revisit that again to have you unpack that just a little bit more from a middle school, high school perspective. When you talked about building relationships, when you talked about developmental skills, when you talked about educational constituents, educating your constituents, how does a middle school academic advisor or high school academic advisor, or even a parent of one of those two, start to develop their child so that they have those skills?
Yeah, so you know, when we start talking about those concepts, they're really kind of like guiding principles. So when we operate, particularly within our department, those are the three things that we focus on: is educating constituents, building relationships, and developing skill, not only for the athlete, but for ourselves as well. Part of what you're trying to do at the end of the day, depending on whatever program that it is, you know, folks got to be educated and be knowledgeable about it. And so you want to make sure that people have the right information. They see how the information is going to help them out, and they can apply it. The development skill piece is kind of teaching them how to use the gifts and talents and abilities that they have to apply the information or to utilize the information to get what they want at the end of the day. And so everybody has to do that. You got to have some type of skill. There's an ecclesiastical passage in Ecclesiastes 10:10 that says, all right, if the axe is dull and its edge unsharp.
Go ahead. I didn't know you come here to give us a service.
Skill will bring success. I can take you to church. So again, you have to be skillful in what you do. You know, there's other teachings in Proverbs that talk about, you know, a man's gift makes room for him. So again, we're trying to figure out what gifts and abilities and talents that our players have. They have more gifts and abilities and talent than just playing sport.
Exactly.
How do we identify those? How do we educate them about that and how they can utilize, but also how do we develop the skill? And then the last piece is that we want to do from education decision development skill is the relationship side. How are you building relationships? Relationships are the currency. That's the currency.
Yes.
You know, that's Proverbs 22:1. That says a good name is to be chosen above great wealth, but it says favor is better than silver and gold. So you can go try to chase money all you want to, but if you don't have a relationship, then it's going to be hard to access the money. It's kind of like we talk about our relationships. Again, this is my personal opinion about it and my faith with, you know, God. If I'm trying to chase what God can give me and not chase after Him, it's like my relationship with my son.
Yes.
I'm always going to provide. So your son that's in the background here, you know, Mike, if you got, he can have whatever he wants as long as he has a good relationship with you.
Yes.
When that relationship starts to go south, then now it starts to change, not your love for him, but what you want to do for him. And so again, it's getting people to understand the importance of relationships, not so people can do things for you, but just how natural it is you just want to do good things for people who you got great relationships with. If my mom comes in town, I want to make sure that I'm paying for her to come to town. I want to take my parents to dinner because they've done so much for me that's been great. And so again, teaching people how to understand those concepts and how you can apply those in your day-to-day lives with your children, but also in the school system with the things that you're trying to do. Because again, it helps you kind of elevate the programs that you have, but it also allows you to market and promote them. So the educating constituent piece is also about telling the story. Sometimes you can go do something really, really good, but you hadn't necessarily communicated it to the right folks. And so nobody ever knows about it. You can do something really good, but nobody knows. So you need resources and support to operate. Once you start to market and promote that in an effective way, other people can kind of see what's happening and they may want to support it. So again, that's what those concepts are doing for individuals and why we really talk about those all the time.
And those are truly some valuable tools that every man, every woman needs to have in their toolkit. Something that's going to take them to the next level in life. being able to work with and through each other, that's what it's all about at the end of the day, being of service. It's not about us, we have to be able to work with and through each other, and thinking about some of the things that they was talking about here. And when they highlighted the importance of the young man was asking the question, I'm about to draw a blank. Oh man, how did that happen? I was thinking about it a second ago.
Okay, while you think about it, I want to go ahead and just
Okay.
ask him about the professional side of soccer. When can a kid turn? Because I don't really know about soccer,
Okay.
and so I'm for the moms that may not know. Since I have them right here, let's ask. Okay, is there a certain age that you can become a professional in soccer, and then is college? So just kind of
Yeah,
help us.
so there are several pathways. That's what we call it. So what we've got is MLS Next, which is our academy team and other affiliates who are part of that. We've got MLS Next Pro, which is kind of the bridge to MLS. So those are kind of the three leagues that we have where we are identifying individuals who have the potential to be professional soccer players. Now, this starts as early as 13, some clubs 12, 13, 14. We've got actual professional soccer players in Major League Soccer who are 14, 15,
Wow.
16 years of age. And so the college pathway is part of that too. So guys may not sign pro or sign a pro contract, but they still may have a chance to go sign a scholarship to play at a university or an institution. So the pathway is there. We still are drafting players from the NCAA level as well. So there's just several opportunities for folks to be able to engage in the sport of soccer. And so again, one of our major areas that we focus on too is that when they get there is how are they being educated? Because again, you put a young man into a locker room with grown folks,
Yeah.
that could be somewhat of a challenge for them mentally. And so again, some of the things that we work on is trying to make sure we're educating those guys, and so that they can make these what we call smooth transitions in, through, and out of the game.
So does a parent play a part in that? Because if my 16-year-old is a professional that's out there with these grown men, where does the parent fit in that role?
So the parents are a major part of what we do. And so we, at our kind of tentpole events, we play like an MLS Next Cup, we've got an MLS Next Fest. These are major tournaments where folks are going to. So here during the pandemic, we had to start like these virtual education sessions.
Mhm.
Pre-pandemic, we would do education sessions for all those teams that would come into these events like Generation Adidas Cup, which we would do in Dallas. We would do that in Frisco, Texas. Major event. We're at the FC Dallas facilities when we put that tournament on. Now in Frisco, education sessions for the players, already talking about transitioning into being a professional soccer player. There are panels that we do with professional players. There's panels that we do with the NCAA personnel and folks on eligibility. There's sessions that we do on diversity, equity, and inclusion, talking about how to be a good citizen and more character development focused work about here's how you sustain your life, not just playing ball, but you can say, hey, I want this out of life, but are you behaving in a manner that's going to get you to that expected age?
Yeah. So if they're 15 and they're in a professional, are they still going to school to graduate?
Yes, so we've got a continuing education program, which we call Cognition. So we've got a partnership with the University of South Carolina that that came into play prior to the University of South Carolina. That was an institution that we work with in Southern New Hampshire University. So what we do is we've got a prorated or somewhat of a discount rate for athletes. Some of our athletes have educational benefits lumped into their contracts. And so that allows them to access those benefits to be able to go back to school again, or choose school later. And so this is an online option for those athletes. There's also some high school education that takes place for kids in the academy to participate in education as well. Some have online programs that they go to, and some still go to their normal schools and then come to the practice facility so they complete their high school diplomas. But then at the same rate too, again, we want them to transition to college. We know what the data says about prerequisites and degrees and opportunities. So again, we're out facilitating, working to provide all of the things that the players need from a resource perspective and on the education side as well.
And I think he jogged my memory when he said that word resources. We talked about valuable resources earlier on. And I just wanted him to just give some real tangible examples of some of those valuable resources that an educator or a parent can tap into in some of our communities.
Yeah, I think one that I highlighted today, and again, we've got several. We've got careers in soccer summits that we do. We've got job shadow programs, which are basically externships, kind of internship types of things. We've got a match evaluator program, which is teaching our players about what to do. I think one of the things that people don't realize about sport is that it's a business. And so given the fact that it's a business, there's ways to focus on things that are not always playing the game, even though that highlights the stars and everybody wants to do what that's the nugget and that people want to aspire to be. But there are also individuals that are around the perimeter of the pitches, of the courts, of the fields that folks are participating on that are making a living and making a pretty good living as athletes, or they're working in the business. It's finance, there's event management, there's partnership marketing, there's corporate sponsorship, business development and brand alliances. There's all kinds of opportunities, IT and technology. Everybody on our staff needs a computer. They need folks to work on it, to know how to do programming, to know how to code, like all these things. We've got social media content, there's broadcasting, there's journalism, there's communications. Any role or in human endeavor that is associated with sport is just like the rest of the business, Fortune 500 companies and different jobs and opportunities. There's folks who have cleaning service. There's folks who are part of shoe companies. There's folks who are part of all types of things that folks can get involved with. So what we try to do is we try to get them to see those aspects, because particularly as an athlete, you love your sport.
Yes.
And you want to be involved in it if you can stay around it. That's one of the things that helped me. I didn't really know that I could have a career in sports, but being able to go to a leadership conference in 2001 when I was a football student athlete at the University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, I was able to see other people who were in different positions, and the light came on and said, "Hey man, I can make this a career if I don't go to the NFL or to the CFL or something like that." So we try to do that. So a tangible program that we have is one called the League Access Program. Okay. And so with the League Access Program, we fly our athletes to our office. So we have an intake meeting with them. We talk about some areas of interest that they may want to get involved with. We put together an itinerary. We talk to our folks internally. And you guys can do this at your high schools or your colleges if you need to. We talk to our departments internally about the different areas that our athletes might be interested in working in. We bring them to the office, we do dinner with them at night. Because again, from professional development, talking about developing skills, yes. Oftentimes if you're on an interview, you're going to be out to dinner, you know how to have a conversation, you have great eating etiquette, and how you get ketchup all over your shirt and everything else. So again, we try to make sure we make it a meaningful experience. Then at the same way, we get a chance to build relationships with the players. So our staff is eating dinner with them. So we're putting them through kind of some drills to help them develop skills. And we're also educating them at the same time. So when I talked about earlier, we're taking the programs and we're facilitating all of these things that we want to administrate to them through this particular exercise. And so then they come into the office. We have somewhat of a relationship with LinkedIn. And so we generally go eat breakfast there. We take them through the LinkedIn. They figure out how to, if I don't have a social media professional presence, then how do I create that? So then they go through a process and learn how to do that. And then we leave LinkedIn department. You guys can do that at the high school. There's somebody that's working on the finance in high school. There's somebody that's scheduling games. There's an athletic director. There's coaches that's there. They can talk about their career, how they got started in coaching. There's other aspects. There's folks on your school board that would probably love to meet with your student athletes in your hometown, wherever you're located. So we just do that. We do those things for our athletes, and then we bid them adieu, and then we talk to them about how to follow up. So now you've had these meetings and these connections. Now what's the next thing? Is how you're going to cultivate the relationships with people so that you can tap into them later. But again, it's how can you build a better relationship with somebody. And so all those things, again, we talked about earlier, that's what we really teach our players to do. And then we also, sometimes what happens is people really like folks. And they see what kind of abilities and talents that they have, and they want to hire them. We've had Rodney Wallace, who just started doing some work with us on the content team. Brother that came through there a few weeks back. And so now he's employed. He transitioned from the game, and now he's got opportunities to be a contractor for us to do some digital content. Morgan Langley, who works on our strategic staff and division, he came through the program. We've got other players that have come through the program who are working for clubs and other folks that are a part of it. So again, it's kind of a training thing, but it's also good for us and good business because it's succession planning for us as a league as well.
Yeah, it improves the wealth of the organization. You know, because if you walk away and you didn't get anything out of it, it was a waste of time. But we want to avoid those wastes of time. Hey, we definitely appreciate you coming out.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
That
that.
no man, because I know it was a long day. And
I got one more. One more question.
Okay, one more. Yes, ma'am.
So, we didn't really deal with this in the meeting, and that's mental illness. So do you
Correct.
guys have a mental illness team or program or something that you have available for your players?
Yeah, so we're getting ready to hire a full staff person in this particular area because it's highly important. The goal was to hire pre-pandemic. So I've been on staff for 4 years at MLS, and I came in 2018. And obviously the pandemic kind of set us back. We've had a reduction in force and things of that nature. But, we're kind of getting back to where we need to be. It's important. In the midst of not having a full-time staff person, we've had resources. We've got an employee assistance program that players can tap into. We've got a substance abuse and behavioral health program that players can tap into. We had a partnership with Headspace, which is a mindfulness and meditation app that players had access to. So through insurance benefits and things of that nature, we talk about those mental illness. I think that people don't realize is that everybody thinks it is called this 100 hotline. Yes,
Right.
everybody's waiting on crisis. But what we do in our space, we got what we call the 7 C's in cognition, skill education. We've got career development services. We've got a currency program, which is financial literacy. We've got a change program, which is really just talking about all the transitions. There are people that are having babies, they're getting married, they're getting traded from teams, they're losing their job, they're getting terminated. So we deal with all those issues around change. We've got a connection piece, which is one of the C's, which is our MLS Greatest Network, which is the alumni program of Major League Soccer, an official alumni group of Major League Soccer. And then we deal with character. Character is really, really important. And so folks got to understand that too. I think that's it. If it's not, I'm sorry. You have to find the other. But again, you can visit our website, www.mlssoccer.com/player engagement. You kind of see all the programs we have. But the point I'm making is that you have to look at mental health from a total wellness standpoint. And so we want to be proactive in preventing that. A lot of the mental illness, particularly in athletes, if it's not, predetermined before, is driven because of anxiety or is driven because, the athletes get to a point in their life, in their transition, and they start to isolate. They don't feel like they're worthy of anything. It's what they call it in research athletic role identity. Or it's identity foreclosure, meaning that I'm focused on my sport so much, and when now that's taken away from me, then I don't really have I'm not happy anymore. There's no happiness or joy because I put all my value, all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. So again, what we do from a total wellness standpoint is really important for everybody, not just athletes. If your identity is wrapped up in your job, if it's wrapped up in your family members, you should have multiple things that you're good at. We talk about this three-leg table concept that I've talked about several times, which is making sure your health, your finances, and your relationships are tight. Meaning there's a strong correlation in each. If one of those is weak, it can cause the table to collapse. So again, just trying to teach our athletes to be well in all those areas. And then obviously, if you're good in one, sometimes it increases the others. So that's what we do from a mental health perspective for our players.
That's good. That's very good. Well,
Are you sure now?
that's it.
Okay,
That's
I
it.
got to check with her.
I might have to invite him back and bring the moms and have him on the show with all the moms, and so we really get down in it. But that's it.
Well, we definitely thank you for joining us. I know it was a long week, and we got through this here, and I'll have to try to see if I can get ahead and pull them out for a second. Just get over it. But we appreciate you.
No doubt, we appreciate you guys, man. God bless everybody. Thank you. Keep making a difference. You guys are making it happen with the kids, so we can make things happen. That's right. What you guys represent as parents.
Now you know the whole Texas gonna be looking at you.
Hey, you guys, what's up? It's Karen again, Can We Talk Sports? And I am here in Maryland, the University of Maryland, at a conference. And I have the pleasure of sitting down with Mr. Michael Willett. He is the CEO and founder of Walk On Nation. And so, first of all, I'm going to just let him introduce himself and tell us what is that brand.
Okay, thank you for having me. First off, Walk On Nation is all about athletic identity redefined. So we focus on helping athletes realize who they are outside of an athlete. We do that through workshops covering identity, core values, brand building, but not through social media, more what legacy you want to leave behind. So everything we focus on is internal. So for the external is seamless when we go to transition.
So, in order for you to come up with that brand, you must have played sports.
Yes, I played football at University of Central Florida from 2013 to 2017.
Okay, and so from playing, you develop a passion to come out with this brand. I mean, what's the story behind the brand?
The story behind the brand, from playing led to my injury, which led to this brand. So I originally walked on at UCF, earned my scholarship in the year. My last year, 2017, when we won the Peach Bowl, all that stuff with UCF beating Auburn. I had a career-ending injury, helmet to my quad, calcified to a whole new bone. So I had an extra bone there. I guess you call me superhero, or what may not. But through that, I had an identity crisis where I no longer knew who I was, because sports in my life for forever. That's all I knew. But during that time, I had to figure out who I was as a person. Throughout plenty and multiple experiences, I ended up building Walk On Nation, my curriculum through intern at UCF, and this is how it came about.
Excuse me. So you said that you had your sports with your identity. So you obviously started playing sports at what age?
8.
At the age of 8. And so did you do multiple sports or only football?
Basketball and football.
Basketball and football. So you've been doing it all your life, and then you come. So obviously you had an end goal, and that's probably what NFL.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, was it a dream of yours?
It
Or?
was a dream of mine. I pictured the last seconds of the game, you scoring the game when touchdown. I done played that through my head so many times growing up, but that was definitely my dream as a make it.
To make it. Agreed. So, I mean, is that something that flashed in your head, like, okay, my dream is gone, or okay, I'm gonna bounce back?
It didn't flash through my head till the doctor's appointment. So I thought it was just normal quad bruise. I was just limping it off. Then it was a month where I couldn't lift my leg. Then it was 2 months. I was like, all right, I need an MRI. And the doctor told me the injury was like, well, this is it. Right then and there, I knew it was over for me. It was a tough pill to swallow because, of course, my parents were in the room too. So it was a tough thing to experience.
Wow. So can you kind of dig into that mental part that you had to go through? I mean,
How much time you got?
I mean, because of course, why me? I was supposed to accomplish so many things. I don't know. Most kids take on their family's situation, so they have dreams and hopes of doing things for their family. I'm sure all those things kind of play through your mind.
Right. Everything you said played through my mind, from being the golden child of the family, being the one that wants everyone to look up to, all that played through my mind. But after a while, it took months and months and even years to where it came to the point where I realized I accomplished a lot more than most people. I was still the 1%. I ended up leaving college with 3 championship rings. I don't know how many people can say that I had from 0-12 to 12-0 in 2 years. That's unheard of. So I've done things in my life that people dream of doing. I realized that I've done more than I thought I had. And I've made a lot of people proud, and ultimately I made myself proud. And I realized that, of course, I love my family, I love my people around me, but I live my life. And my life was not meant to be in the league. God has a different plan for me. So with that, it helped me cope with it better and realize that I gotta focus on me before I focus on anyone else.
That is so good. So how did your parents help you with that transition? Because, you know, sometimes we get into part where our parents are kind of living through us and,
Right.
you know, especially if your dad would say, for instance, he played, he didn't get so far. And so all he dreamed of is his kid getting farther than him. So how did your parents just kind of help you with that transition that you had to go through?
My parents were a big help. I mean, my mom and dad both always said that we don't love you because of football, we love you because you're our son. So of course, when you hear that when you're injured, like, yeah, but I was playing. But after a while, when you grow up, you try to realize that they have my back no matter what. No matter what happens. If I decided to quit way before, they would have my back. So just knowing whatever I do, they will support me, help me get through even more.
So at what point did you just kind of like, okay, sports, that is not my identity. I just played the game. It is not who I am. Yes.
I think it was, I was interested in that people, there was a program where the for the profession, first time in my life, it was, you know, it would be football or I was like, wait, I don't think it's and through that time thing, I realized, wait, I want your job, not that I want to take that, but what you're doing, realize that your job until you are, I realized when I was so much more than it hit me that moment. It opened my eyes again.
Wow. And so that's when you birthed. So you obviously at some point was like, okay, what I've learned, I need to go back and share it with somebody else. And so that the birth of
Pretty much the birth of Walk Foundation. The name was always there because I knew I had something with this name in itself. I didn't know what to do with it. Then after interning all this stuff, I'm like, got it. I got to build this curriculum out to help people understand who they are as a person, especially athletes, because we get so caught up in what other people want for us in the athletic identity, and people always reaffirm that you're the athlete, you're this, you're that, you're the reason the family's gonna make it out. When we forget what we want and who we are. There's so many times, especially in our culture, that we're looked at the only way you can make it out is league or rapping. No. But we get told that so many times from people in the neighborhood and all these family members that we get caught into that, well, I guess it's all I can do. When athletics open so many other doors that we don't even understand. The amount of people that want to speak to us just because we're athletes is incredible. The opportunities we have, but we don't realize that because we still know who we are. When I figured out who I was, that's when I started networking and started to get to know people in a way. You want to know because I'm an athlete. All right, let's use it. This is what I want to do, though. I'll tell you about athletics later. But this is what I want to do in my life. And I just, from networking there, it helps so much because when you leave athletics, no one cares about it. But while you're in it, use it. That's the big thing with Walker Nation. That your intent's not defined by your status. While we're in it, we're going to figure out who we are so we can get these connections now. By the time we leave, no one cares.
Wow.
It's a business. The next person is up. So we got to use it while we have it.
Yeah. I heard you say in your class about, you know, when you get to the next level, the college is a business. It's, you know, that's what it is.
Absolutely. It is a business to where I don't think our athletes understand what we're walking into. It's your head coach recruited you, but that's his job to get you to school. Once you're there, you don't owe you nothing. Everything's earned. The same way with any job. You don't show up to a job. I don't owe you this paycheck. We have this entitlement that shouldn't be there because we were promised all these other things, but we don't realize when we step into that position, we got to fulfill that contract. We want a scholarship, but that's a contract too. We got to do our part, and we miss it. That's why there's a whole bunch of other issues that come with this entitlement that we have.
Man, I just remember when my son was getting ready to go to college, I was like praying that, you know, God will put him with a group of coaches that was going to teach him the manhood, the next level of his life. And so you just kind of like destroyed that whole thinking, you know, as far as expectation of coach, you know, a coach. They're there to perform and fulfill that contract of that or that scholarship. And I guess it was wrong of me to have that expectation because I'm like, I'm handing over my baby, he's 18 years old, you know, and you kind of expect them to teach them, nourish them in order to be a man,
Right,
you know, because
Right.
that's the next step,
right.
you know.
I would say you're not wrong to have that expectation at all, because that's when you as a parent, when you go on these visits with your child and stuff, you can see character too in the coach. You can feel if the coach is faking you or not. So that's when you as a parent have to step up. Even if your kid loves the school, you see the character of the coach, you're like, this isn't the best fit for you. So we gotta remember, God forbid our kids get hurt, they gotta be at that school and be able to enjoy it without sports. So why do you really want to go to the school? If it's for the jersey and the coach's name, it's not good enough for you. What do you want to do with your life after? Can you be comfortable being here as a student? If not, this is not the place for you. So you're not wrong to have the expectation. The coach, that's the coach's job, is supposed to be there to help. But the business side, they caught in the monotony to where they're just next man up. What can you do for me? But you're not wrong with the expectation. You've got to be more aware that when we go on these trips, I'm looking for certain things that I know my kid will thrive as a person,
Yeah,
not an athlete.
yeah, and that's good, and I think that's what we have to, as parents, have to think about and equip ourselves. We got to take out the sports side of it. And so sometimes that's kind of like where we just stay there.
Right.
We just stick there with the sport part of it and not the other part. So I appreciate you just kind of enlightening us on that part of it. So as far as your program, so do you go out to high schools? How does your program work?
I go out to high schools, colleges, professional teams. Whoever needs me, I'm here. I'm here to service athletes. So that can be from high school to professional. Anything younger than high school is kind of tough because mindset, kids are still not there yet. But when it gets, that's when my programs come into effect, and that's where I can really help the most. Because I believe you just start at high school. Sometimes college is too late. Sometimes you step away after a while. You need to get them while they're young, especially nowadays with how technology is. It's just gonna get worse.
Yeah.
So we got to grab them now when they mature and they're used to what they're about to walk into. They understand the business rather than being thrown in the fire like, oh, now what do I do? I guess I'll just go with it.
Yeah, but you know, now they're going after, I mean, now this thing with sports is going after our kids even younger, you know. I see, you know, 9-10-year-olds that's getting MVP rings and just all, you know, just creating this type of thinking for our kids. I mean, I don't even know how a parent can keep that balance with them just not be thinking about sports because
Right.
we're going after them so early.
Right.
So I can see your program kind of going back.
I think in that sense, that's where parents need to step up. Sometimes when your kid's 8, he doesn't need the best training. You don't need to be the best player. Let him be a kid. He's still a kid. Let them enjoy their childhood. There's going to be times when you need to specialize in certain things, but now is not the time. 9 to 10 MVP, this, that. Have fun. Go to the park, go play football, go do what you want. Have some fun. We forgot about kids having fun. Everything
Yeah.
now business decision. You got 12-year-olds saying, what they're going to go for college.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fun.
And already have their name, image, and likeness because
Right.
they have 100,000 followers. They're already making money.
Right.
So, I mean, my thing is if you're going to college in order to make money, you're already making it at the age of 10. So why you need to go to college?
Right, but that's on the parents because the parents have to co-sign for those kids to make the money. So if the parents are allowing that behavior, that's not the kid's fault in that sense. That's parents. No 10-year-olds are, all right, here's $10 million. There's a parent that has to sign off on that contract. That's parents wanting that money too. So you got to look at the parents on that aspect.
Right. Right. So, all right. I mean, you just see, we have a lot to just talk about as parents. I think that's why it's so important for parents' voices to be shared and talked about. Just kind of just learning some of the things that we are doing as parents. We just sometimes have to reevaluate what we're doing and really look at it. And so I'm so glad that I have you here and to give us firsthand experience about what you had to do as far as your identity, and now how you have blossomed out your brain or your experience in order to go back and help someone else. So can you tell somebody how they can get in contact with you? And
Absolutely. You can follow me on my website at walkonation.org. That's where you find all our information. Instagram, Twitter, walk_nation. You find me on LinkedIn, Michael Wood. I'm here to help. If you have any questions, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to answer the questions. I'm here to be of service. That's my job.
and do you have any one more thing that you might want to say to a parent that you just like, I gotta say this to a parent?
If I were to say anything to a parent, is help your kid realize who they are. That sports is not the end all be all. There's so much more to life we live in. They are a person before they're an athlete. If you treat them like superheroes, they're going to grow up with a superhero mentality and not be able to show weakness. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to not be okay. We all human. We all have feelings. Let your kid embrace it.
Well, you heard me here, y'all, on Can We Talk Sports. Thank you so much, Mr. Michael, for coming on and just enlightening us on athlete identity and who they are. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Hey, you guys, what's up? It's Karen again. I am having an amazing time here at the University of Maryland, and I have a guest here, Miss Carrie. She is an employee of University of Maryland, and she knows image and likeness concerning the university. So I just want to go dive into it with her and get my words together. And just talk about it on the college level as far as what they're experiencing when the kids are coming in and how the college handle this new rule for our kids. So let me just start with letting her introduce herself and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Karen. I appreciate the introduction. My name is Carrie DeHoff. I work in the University of Maryland Athletics Compliance Office. I've been doing compliance for about 8+ years now, but I've been at the University of Maryland for a little bit over a year, but at other Division I's in the area. So I'm going to keep my home base as Maryland, not going to name drop other schools. But really excited to talk about NIL, and Maryland is a great place to promote it.
Wow, that's great. So tell me about what was your first reaction when you heard that the NCAA was changing the way they looked at your image?
You know what? I'm old school. I'm old school. I say that, but I played college athletics back in 2010 and 2014 at a Division II level. So I think most sports fans know Division II is a little bit less of an athletic elite level, but still very talented student athletes that definitely do transfer to Division I. But I really was like, wow, holy cow, this is taking away from student first and athletics. But Damon Evans, our athletic director, really said that we're in a position where we promote the future and we show, and we have to support that. And these student athletes are why we're here and why we all have jobs and why we're all doing what we love every day. So it was really with that statement from him really leading up to July 1 that it changed my mindset, where it is like, you know what, hey, exactly, me feeling old school doesn't change my job and having to help these student athletes understand the rules, understand our NIL policy. So I think with the support of our athletic department and honestly seeing our student athletes going out there and getting after it was really cool. And it motivates all of our staff in the athletic department to be industry leaders, work with industry leaders. We work with Open Doors, which is our way we organize our NIL deals for our student athletes, also how we educate our student athletes through that platform. Our NIL action plan is called Momentum. And so, we are always in momentum working.
Wow. So you said that you work with the students. So does that mean you're educating them on exactly how the rules work and how to go about getting a contract for the image?
Oh, that's a really good question. So first and foremost, our job is to educate on the NCAA rules and where that bar is. And that's usually going to be the top have state rules to learn about what our other person in our office, Hunter, just presented on. So A big piece is just basic education, which is, the state of Maryland requires disclosure within a certain period. The state of Maryland also is a rather non-restrictive NIL laws. So the University of Maryland has our NIL policy, which kind of mirrors that, rather non-restrictive. But as universities, we have partners that we work with. And so out of respect to our athletic apparel partners and our coaches' time demands with the student athletes, our policy just says, please don't contradict our apparel that we require you to wear at just athletic sanctioned events, so they can go wear whatever they want when they're not reporting for athletic duty. And then really to not partner with adult entertainment and tobacco. And other than that, we're just encouraging them to get to our open door software, and we're reviewing any of their NIL deals to make sure they just don't contradict our university policy. And other than that, the sky is the limit.
Oh, wow. Well, that was a lot. I mean, I just like, my questions are just going. So, so you guys have partners as well as, so if a business owner approaches an athlete, then you guys have a system in place where you will help them look at the contract and help them cipher through what it is they're actually getting involved in, and then you look at it as far as how, if it conflicts with what you already have at the university.
Yeah, so that's a good question. And I think there's a point that needs to be cleared up. Is so I always make this disclaimer when a student athlete has requested me to look at their contract, it really is only through the lens of, is there anything in this contract that contradicts our university NIL policy? Mm-hmm. So that's where agent representation or their parents or a guardian or any other representation that they're hiring independent of our university really would matter to help catch those, kind of like what you just touched on, where, sometimes I have read a contract where I'm just like, man, I really feel like they could maybe negotiate something better, but that's not my place. That is enforced by the NCAA. So it's kind of a old classic, stay in your lane. But that's where it's really important to have good support as a student athlete who is navigating those NIL contracts, having someone who you trust, whether that means, a guardian or somebody in your family who's looking out for you, or, taking that next step. Because I mentioned in our NIL talk is that NIL is a small business. It starts as a small business, and you've seen some athletes take off and make that a huge business. And you've seen a lot of student athletes just have really fun in their small community space, maybe accept a couple community NIL deals, come out to Subway. Well, we want to see you tonight. And you're able to grow it whatever size you want. But as a campus person, my job is just to make sure it doesn't conflict with University of Maryland policy, and just to help show them the resources that can teach them more about NIL.
That's good. So it's been a year, right? Since it's been put in place.
It was crazy hearing Hunter say that, where he's like, we've only been just about at a year where NIL first hit campuses.
So do you have any experiences that you can share as far as the demand, or how did it change with the athlete? Did it put more demand on them? Because they're already having to meetings and practice and all those different things, study, stand on top of their books, and now it's almost like this is a job for them now.
Yeah.
So is there have you experienced anything where it's kind of hard for them to navigate this whole little new ruling?
Yeah, I would say it's 50-50. So you kind of actually touched on it. There's time demands with being a student athlete, and our coaches are usually the ones facilitating when our student athletes are meeting those athletic time demands. And the NCAA does say there's maximum times that a coach can be working with a student athlete. So University of Maryland policy says if you're reporting for that sanctioned time, you can't be doing NIL deals. But the question you just posed is something that our coaches thought of too, where it's like, man, how is my student athlete and now NIL searching person going to manage all of this? And I think at first everyone was a little bit nervous, and because we didn't know, but I mentioned Open Doors. So the University of Maryland partners with a software company to help organize our student athletes. So it really is, we talked about disclosure, so a student athlete can log into this website and truly have it be a ledger for all their NIL duties. And so that is helping organize what they're doing in the year. They can pull their own statistics. But I think the funny thing is that we have to keep reminding ourselves is our generation is tech savvy. They
Yes.
are social media socialites, and they really are what drove this space. So I think students, athletes almost said, and just students and just, younger generation said, hey, I'm on social media all the time for fun anyway. Why
Yeah.
not get paid? Why am I
Yeah.
not getting paid for this? So I think ironically, we're already balancing it, and
Yeah.
now they're just getting paid for
Good
it.
money
So
for it.
I kind of mentioned business and managing a small business. So I think that's where we talked about the extra support. So as a student athlete, my advice would be, start small, get your feet wet, get your training wheels on. If you're feeling good, you're feeling organized, and you can take on more business, you might want to hire more support. Just as like a small business grows, you get new chains. And so really, you get too big too fast, you might miss something. You like it here, or I want to jet off and get some more NIL deals.
Yeah, I mean, for my mind, I'm just kind of like dialing back at, our kids go to college in order to advance their career, to become a professional, in order to make more money, to make money. I think it really does boil down to making money. And so if I'm somebody from give me a contract for $8 million, and I made the money. So I'm just like, okay, do I even need a college degree?
Yeah.
I could just be an influencer.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes hand in hand. I think you really make a great statement there, and it goes hand in hand because these student athletes have also dedicated up into college athletics a big portion of their life to athletics, and they are motivated. And some of our biggest NIL revenue generating student athletes can also go play for our nation. So getting that $8 million contract really shows their dedication to their craft, and you sacrifice a lot. And so kind of like you just said, for me, I would love to take 8 million and walk, but
Right,
I
live
mean,
life.
that really just goes to show that these student athletes truly don't stop at anything.
Yeah.
And 8 million to them is just another success, but their success truly is on the field, on the mat, in the pool, and all of that. So, when they get to that college athletic level, there's a bigger stage. And, I think that's something we talk about, was being concerned with non-revenue generating sports. And, I have to be real, as our women's sports, was how is NIL going to hurt women's sports? How was NIL going to hurt our non-basketball, our non-football people?
Yeah.
And we're really seeing that women's sports are taking off, and women are taking off in this NIL space. I mean, shout out to us for being organized and knowing social media, but the data is really cool to watch, and it's something that really anybody in the nation can tune into and see that trend. And another thing is the social media platform that our high schoolers are doing. I mean, that's still stuff that they can be monetizing off of, and that they can, really take to the college level, take to that professional level, take to the USA playing level. So, for some, 8 million might be enough to walk away.
Yeah, I'm just amazed, because, for a while we told our kids to stay off social media, or that people are watching what you do. And now all of a sudden we want you to do something for people to see you in order for you to advertise. So it's just like, one from one extreme to another. But I appreciate you coming and sitting down and just kind of breaking it down for us as far as what you guys are experiencing on the college level. And it's also happened or something that they can software where they can log into and help them organize this whole new era of their lives as far as being able to make money. So,
and that's a big emphasis from the NCAA, is honestly, it's just education. As educators and everybody who's in this field is really, I think we all have this innate yearning to just give everything that we didn't have to the student athletes that are doing the same trek that we are. So it's really easy to always feel inspired and motivated to help our student athletes really reach that next level.
Yeah. Now, you said you played sports. Now, just think if they had this back then, do you think you would have been someone that would have been looking for a contract and being an influencer?
Oh my gosh. I mean, heck yeah, I know my mom would be saying, if you can get extra money, do it. But you raise a great point though, where it's like, what can I manage? I played a Division II sport. Already my forefront was, I need something a little less for me. I struggle academically. I need a good balance between academic and sports. So something mentioned is social media ends up being the first introduction to NIL. So I'm even thinking back to 2010.
And my Instagram was a hot mess. I posted pictures of my feet and like weird stuff, you know. I'm just like, look at my new socks. Whereas student athletes now are centerfolds with people taking professional shots of them. So I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a cool thing, being able to take a picture of your feet. I mean,
But it's really cool to see that work that I was doing nothing, having fun, having my mom as the only person that likes my post. You know, an evolution of 10 years has now allowed student athletes to really profit, get their name out there. And you said like creating a brand for yourself, you know, there was concerns with, like you mentioned, what student athletes are putting online. Is that going to hurt them? Is that going to help them? And they're finding that balance. They're finding where's the level of personal and authentic social media, and then how much, you know, advertisement can I put in? I don't want to lose my followers, but I would be real to myself. I want to have my own brand. And I think it really helps them organize who they are, how they project to the world. And, you know, hopefully it gives them a lot of self-reflection in that process too.
yeah, but I can only just think about how we in social media, how we portray a certain way of certain things. And so now that they're making money portraying or advertising, it's just continue. I don't know if they're going to continue this falseness or this this illusion of
That's a really good word. And I think also mental health is tied to it.
Yeah.
Also what you could draw from that is, like you just said, managing this falseness, this illusion, and, you know, are you really, you know, staying true to yourself, or are you hustling for the money and the followers and stuff? And I think, you know, University of Maryland, I think the NCAA, I think our student athletes are big proponents to still saying, hey, mental health needs to be at our forefront of all of this, and, you know, protect your energy. And that's it. Find your authenticity in this space too, because authenticity is really going to be what lets you sustain in this area.
yeah, and kind of carry you. I mean, you kind of tell when somebody is kind of like just kind of fake or real. I mean,
Yeah, it sounds like work.
right.
You know,
I
more of
know.
that. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you so much. I appreciate you sitting down with Can We Talk Sports and just educating us on this as far as how the college, how you guys are doing it. Thank you so much.
100%. Bye, y'all.
Much as in creation of it, but acknowledgement that there's more, and how do you get creative with your child or with your family, and you know, kind of thinking outside the box, right? Like, you know, that so it doesn't rest solely on in place. You can acknowledge, or at least say it out loud, right?
Say it out loud.
Say it out loud, and that there for all the valid reasons. Your family is a sports family, and that's what you do, and that's what you know. That's what you're the professionals at, so to speak, right? So you know that world. What can you explore together outside of that world? So it's not just one person's job or just the parent's job, but and do they want to, or is there more within the sports world that could light fires of hope and interest?
One thing I've loved hearing this week is athletes telling us, like, we are a human outside of the athlete. And so there's something about that, as you ask that question, if our parents could guard that humanity of our athlete first, and I have put a lot of thought to this, but as I keep hearing athletes say, like, I didn't know who I was outside of this sport, I think as parents, perhaps we guard that early on of, we're going to foster and support you in developing all of your skills to be the athlete that you want to be. And as your parent first, I want you to be an amazing, well-rounded human. I don't know. I think there's something about that I would love to do a little more research and investment into to come back and connect with you on that.
That's good. That's good. And, you know, I think, and that's kind of like my motto, my story, as far as telling other parents those mistakes or those things that I learned. And that's the value of sharing to other parents. Okay, this is the mistake I made. Be careful of this. Be careful to lean to find something else. And so that's the voice of us just bringing out the power of parents, sharing those stories, sharing those things that other parents can glean from in order to make better decisions in their, you know, with their kids' lives. So I thank you, ladies.
We will connect folks to you,
Yeah.
your team.
Yeah, so Mike, we got to get them down. So when we do that parents conference, we can bring them in to help us with parents as far as just our thing. Because how do parents take a break? You know,
Well, there's so much, I mean, you think about the expectations and the judgments and all the shoulds that we bring in as a parent, right? I should do this, I should have them this, I should, and then, and juggling all of the other factors, finances and transportation, childcare, all of it. And at each developmental stage. I mean,
Yeah.
and if you get into traveling sports and things like that, I mean, it's, well, you all know better than I, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I think not telling, like not directly answering the question, but asking the question of how can you rest in the midst of your children's
Right.
journey
Mm.
on the daily, not like I'll take that
Yeah.
vacation this summer,
Right.
but if we're traveling for a sport, how will parent rest during that time frame? And it works, like having an AirPod in while you're still watching that Disney movie for the 600th time or whatever, like just so you have a little bit of you for a moment.
Sanity.
So there's and that came from a participant in Be Well. Like somebody shared, like, while I'm sitting there and I'm watching my children, I can at least listen to a podcast that I wanted to be listening to, or you don't want to do that all the time,
or
but
whatever it is, yeah. Or I mean, my 6-year-old is well trained in the art of like breathing and stretching or doing things like that.
Yeah.
And she'll be the first one that says, "Mama, you need to pause." Like, and she'll like walk me through. It's a little bit, it's inspiring and a little frustrating sometimes. But I'm like, okay, who taught you that? But she'll say, "Let's just stretch," or "Let's just, let's take the dog out for." But like, so building that awareness of how we can recognize it even in each other, because I need Shelly and Lexi to kind of check me sometimes before I go into whatever job tasks or things like that. And if they see something that's off, thank goodness, right? Because I might be pushing myself and not providing and being as effective or as healthy as I could be, right?
Mhm.
So it's working together in that.
I'm sorry to keep going, but
Yeah.
my last thought is, if as parents, all of us want the best for our kiddos.
Yeah.
If we're not modeling self-care, if we're not modeling emotional health, our kiddos are going to pick up on those same practices. So if anything's going to motivate us, it's usually doing what's right for our kiddos, and that's going to start with caring for our own emotional and brain health.
And can I just say something with that? Sorry, we get excited about that. But the thing is, right, we all want the best. And what we know up here is different than what we normally do. And if we're in a reactive state or a survival state and we're just trying to do the best we can, we're going to fall back on what we know. Doesn't make it healthy, doesn't make it all encompassing of all the habits that we want to have. And what happens generally is the judgments pour in. I'm not doing enough, I'm not modeling enough, or oh my gosh, I overslept, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then those judgments pile on, and then we move more into a survival state, and we do more of what we know to survive, which isn't learning new, having new experiences or practicing maybe healthier habits and ways of being. So the idea is to get really in tune with that and have a lot of grace. Like we're meant to have pitfalls and make mistakes and kind of, because each child is different, dynamic is. Yeah. And so that's why I always say practice together as best you can.
Yeah.
Although I get a little sting when my daughter goes, "Hey mom, you better pause.
Right.
You're using that hard voice." And I'm like, "What hard voice?" No, I'm a little tired. It might stand at the same time. If we practice together, then at least both of us are getting a little boost of maybe learning a new way,
That is so good. I mean, I have another question. I mean, I just like,
We'll stay here all day, obviously.
I mean, and I'm going back to moms, and I'm relating to myself, because when we do have our kids and we're pouring into our kids, we tend to put off what it is that we like to do and want to do. And so now my kids are grown, and now I'm like at this stage of, okay, this is figuring out who I am and not my my identity. And I forgot what my thought was with that, but how do I forgot what my thought I had
named it right there.
Yeah.
I think you named it. We have to continue to hold on to who we are somehow through the process.
Yeah.
And know,
Yeah.
know that there are all the valid reasons in the world that we don't hold on to it.
Mm.
But to get, like, if we can't, and I can say this, I think I said to these guys, because we're back out in the communities now and going places, and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to exercise during the pandemic, or I forgot to do the things that worked as well. And part of that was because we were trying to finagle and do things differently, whether kids were at home, not in school, or all the things, right? But there's so note, like, the better we can get at that ebb and flow when we step over the limit, and noticing it, the more intentional we can be about it, and the kinder we can be about it. Like, of course you did. You love your children. You you try and do the best you can and be present for them. And of course, some things are going to slip, you know. And what an interesting, overwhelming, beautiful chapter you're in now to kind of explore, and how scary that can be and frustrating it could be, or you know. So having it, like, recognizing all of it, it's not good or bad, but this human experience, and the more in tune we can stay with that, and the compassion, I think, is key. Not judging.
That's good. I like the fact that the fact that recognizing where you are, I recognize that that's where I am in life. And so that's why I created Can We Talk Sports, because I'm like, okay, we need parents, we need their voices, we need to hear those stories. And so I can share with somebody what my struggles is. And if you can relate to it, then, and if I can do anything to help you with your decision, young child coming up, then we're all going to be better society, better community, better family. That's it. All right, ladies. Hey, what's up, guys? This is Karen with Can We Talk Sports, and I am here on the beautiful campus of the University of Maryland conference called ACE Conference. And so I just had the opportunity to sit down with Mr. Jonathan Mayo. He is the founder and CEO of Team Excel. So Mr. Jonathan, being the founder, that means that was the heart. You created this. So tell us a little bit about how you started it and what exactly it is.
Okay, awesome. First of all, thanks for having me. Again, Jonathan Mayo, founder of Team Excel. And when we started Team Excel, we really started in the place. I'm a former athlete, student athlete. So I'll start with that.
Yeah.
Former student athlete, did well in school. My mom was a lifelong educator. She taught middle school math in the city of Richmond for 37 years. And I always say she instilled in me early the importance of education. So, she took me to a little league football field, but she also made sure I was getting my work done first. So she instilled that in me at a young age. And so coming out of college, and I played sports all the way through college at VMI, Virginia Military Institute. Never played any professional sports, but was always part of teams, playing football. I played some basketball, but football was my main sport coming up. And when we started working with just thinking about how can we impact young people, I started thinking about how can we make it fun? And then also, I think that one thing that drove me was, coming up, I was always, when I talk to especially young people, like I wasn't the best athlete, but I worked hard, I got good grades, and that got me a full scholarship to college.
Yeah.
And I always tell young people, you have to, if you do well in the classroom, you can have those opportunities. The sad thing was growing up, I had so many friends that were like phenomenal athletes, but they didn't get their work done. They didn't get their schoolwork done. So they didn't go to college. Some of them I still see today, around the city, and they tell me now, like, man, I wish I had studied more like you, man. I wish I had taken my school seriously. And so when we started Team Excel, that kind of gets us to Team Excel, but we started this idea like a reverse fantasy sports where instead of, kids getting points with, professional athletes getting points for things like touchdowns and tackles, we said, what if we have students compete on teams based on metrics like their grades, attendance, community service hours? And so that way we could leverage that peer-to-peer accountability and support. Same thing I experienced being part of different sports teams growing up. but could we bring that to the classroom where kids are pushing each other to excel and do better? Fun. So they're competing. So
competition's
you're now on the
still
team,
there.
The competition's
Yeah.
still. You're now on the team, and my grades are going down. And you're like, what's going on?
Right.
Like, can we study together? You need some, how can I
Yeah.
support you? And just using that, and that's how we saw results. We saw kids starting to hold each other accountable, and supporting each other. And that led to success. We saw a 20% increase in GPA for our first
Wow.
cohort of students that went through 9th and 12th grade. So that's kind of the backstory of it.
Yeah. Wow. So what exactly do you do? Do you go to schools in order to get it into school, or do you really focus on teams? You approach different teams and say, hey, this is what we got. This is what we can do.
Yeah, great question. So we primarily work with schools now, but we're starting to also look at how can we work with, whether it's sports teams, little league teams, nonprofit organizations, youth development organizations. The primary work we're doing now with schools and we started in Richmond, Virginia. Now we're actually expanding.
Wow.
Because when we first started, we were using Excel, PowerPoint, build out a leadership.
Oh, Team Excel. That's why it's Excel.
Yeah. So, it was all. Oh no, that's not what we were using Excel to track the data.
Oh, okay. I was like, is that where the name come from? Excel sheet.
Yeah. And we said, hey, we got amazing results. How do we scale it? And so we transitioned to more of a social enterprise model and built out a whole technology platform where now everything can be done with the app, where kids can look at their team score, they can track the results, they can communicate with their mentors, they can do everything with the app. So we'll go into a school, work with a school district and say, hey, this is our concept, this is the model, it's using that peer-to-peer support. And then we work with the school to decide, hey, is this something we want to do for a subset of students? So maybe it's just your 9th graders coming in, or it's a whole school implementation.
Wow.
Where we're breaking all of the kids in the school into small teams that they compete with. Or we've also had some conversations with some youth development organizations that already have a structure in place, but it's like, okay, we can bring that additional teamwork, team element, fun element of the competition that really kind of complement, because a lot of groups are doing amazing work with young people. So we really see ourselves as being able to be a complement to those organizations.
That is, that's phenomenal. I like the aspect of it is the competing, because in sports, but they like to compete. So now here it is that they can compete, with their grades.
Right. Yeah.
And I like the fact that you're going into school district that's a great concept to go into. And then I can see, school district competing with other school districts.
Yeah. We actually have 3 school districts in the Virginia area. And the 3 superintendents are friends. And so they actually discuss, say, hey, we should make this a fun competition between the 3 of us, like how our districts perform. So that's exactly right. Competition is fun, and it's something that motivates us. And to your point, I had the privilege of playing sports my whole life and knew what that was like to have my teammates that were already there.
Yeah.
And like you said, every kid is not into sports, but the whole, we're all on teams, right? In life, it's your family, you work, like you're always going to be a part of a team. But some kids just need more of a structured team to say, hey, these are my teammates, and to be real intentional about, we do a lot of fun, just team building exercises for the kids to just start off getting to know each other, developing that trust, developing that bond. Because once you have that, now I care that, I'm not coming to school, my grades are slipping, I'm letting my teammates down.
Right.
You have to build that trust and that bond for kids to care about their teammates. And then once they care about their teammates, they don't want to let the team down.
Right.
And then if you're my teammate, I want to see you come up, and I want to support you, and they all win. And so
That's amazing. And so I just see how things are kind of branching out. Like you do have your sports, and now you have what's called esports, and they compete. Now you have this part where if they don't do any of that, they can compete academically.
Right.
And just, I know you have the spelling bee, and you have the standardized test, but I don't know of anything that you can just compete academically. So
yeah, and with Team Excel, the way we develop the app, the organizations can customize what metrics they make as part of the competition. So it could be grades, it could be attendance, it could be community service hours, it could be work completion, it could be career development. They could get points for attending, going to hear guest speakers, so you can totally customize it to whatever you want those metrics to be. But at the end of the day, it's still the teamwork, the bond, and it's at the core of it is still we're pushing each other to do better, and whatever those metrics are.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So tell everybody, how they can get in touch, area that you need input or donations or something. Tell people how they can help you build it out to be a,
global Team Excel League.
Right.
Yeah, we have a website, and it's simply teamexcel.com, team and EXCEL.com. That's the best way to learn more about us. And you can reach us through our website. And, now that we've built a platform, we can help kids anywhere. So if you're a school, a nonprofit, anyone that's trying to develop a group of students or young people or anyone we're actually looking at higher ed, because you think about any team of people that want to do better, the same concept applies. So let's make this thing national, kind of a global Team Excel League, and have fun while we do it.
All right. So do you guys have Facebook and Instagram and all those?
We do. We're kind of starting to beef that up even more. And that's for each of them. Our handle is Go Team Excel on Instagram and Twitter. Yeah. Okay. But our website would be the best place to get the most updated information. And we have another new product that's coming out that we're really excited about, where we're building kind of a public interface. It's kind of, if you think about like the ESPN.com, but for education and student development, when you go to this new site, which will be coming out in August, you'll be able to see like leaderboards and score updates from all of our teams around the country.
Wow.
And you'll also be able to read amazing stories about, students. So you think about it, you go to ESPN, you're going to see scores and you're going to see stories.
Right.
And that's what our site's going to be, scores, but it's going to be based on student success. And then it's going to be stories that'll be like the team of the week, or we just had one of our Team Excel alums that started with us in 8th grade, and he's a rising senior at William and Mary College in Virginia. He was just named a Truman Scholar, so he got all of his grad school paid for. And so we've got like a story about him, Alton Costin, like stories like that'll be on our student alumni.
Yeah.
So we're excited about that because that'll really just tell the story. The positive stories. Too many times we hear negative stories about people. It's time to hear more positive stories. Young people are doing some really amazing things, giving back to your communities, doing service projects. So the site will be all about those positive stories of young people working together to do positive things, and then you'll be able to see kind of the fun competition and see the score updates and stuff like that.
That sounds amazing, because we do see a lot of negative, and so I'm all about pushing the positive, pushing what we're doing. Okay, I already know we're not, but let's hear about what we are doing. It, great, share, because they need that. I mean. I can't imagine the things that our kids are dealing with that I didn't necessarily have to deal with, when I was young. They're dealing with a lot more things. So we have to continue to encourage them and help them push them to the next level. So I appreciate you just sitting down with me and telling me about Team Excel. And, I started a nonprofit. So one of my nonprofit is for family fitness and fun, and it's based on kids fitness. So I'm like, okay, I want to kind of do a team fitness.
Yeah,
with kids.
Yeah. For doing their workouts.
Yeah. Because I eventually want to take it all around where we would do these kids fitness all around the United States. And so once I establish it, hey, we can come on the app and then establish working out with kids working out all over. So there it is. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you, Mr. Jonathan, for sitting down with Can We Talk Sports. We appreciate, and we are always about giving information to parents in order for them to raise a student athlete or just a student.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for what you're doing for parents and our young people.
Thank
you. With two of the key pieces to this 3-ACE conference. This 3-ACE conference, folks, is something that if you're not here, you're missing out on it, and a great opportunity. I'm just going to just start over here to my far left and have the gentleman just introduce himself. But I'm telling you, he's a cog in the picture. He's a cog, he's a major cog in the picture, just letting you know. But we're going to start over here with that phenomenal looking Half-Life shirt that he didn't share with us. You notice he ain't offering them shirts?
I did notice that.
I noticed. But we're going to start over here with him and let him introduce himself.
Well, Michael, I'm Jeff McCann. I'm the executive director for the Athlete Foundation, and it's great to be here with you this morning, and we're happy that you made the Hampton Roads area. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hey, and I'm happy to be here this morning as well. My name is Brady Rourke. I'm the Associate Athletic Director and Director of the Gossett Student Athlete Center here at the University of Maryland. So it's a pleasure to be here this morning and just grateful to be part of the conference.
We truly appreciate it. Gentlemen, tell us a little bit about this. Well, first of all, we're talking about the Afterlife Foundation and 3 about what 3 is that? What are we talking about?
Right, so the Afterlife Foundation is a platform, and we exist to really help high schools create and develop a profession that we call academic athletic coach. We know that this profession has existed in higher education for now more than 50 years, and our foundation is built to really drive that profession in secondary ed. And 3-ACE is the Alliance for Academic Athletic Coaches and Educators. It's the professional network that is the glue that all of these educators come together for and really help develop themselves professionally with best practice strategies and things that they can take back to their schools so they can create these high impact programs for their kids so their kids can have the right kind of sport experience during their high school years so they're better prepared for the next step, whatever that may be.
And how did we tie into the University of Maryland? And what's the University of Maryland's part in this 3-ACE effort?
Yeah, we support 500 student athletes here at the University of Maryland across 19 varsity athletic teams. And really the partnership with 3-ACE and Jeff's team is when the student athletes in high school have coaches that are helping them with study strategies and test taking strategies and time management. When they get to us at the collegiate level, they're better prepared academically to be successful in college. And so we spend a lot of time with our first year student athletes on those transition skills, helping them become more independent learners. And if they've gone through the system that Jeff and his team has implemented, we feel they're better equipped to do that and become independent more quickly. So it's really a seamless transition, and the work that they're doing in high schools is what we're doing in college. And so to come together and collaborate at a conference like this is inspiring.
Awesome. So the collaboration is needed. The transition is needed. That makes things easier on the other end. And from the perspective of, and just coming from what both of you are capable of doing, or what both of you have been doing over the last few years, how does a parent tie into the efforts that you're doing?
Yeah, I think parents are critical, and it's actually an untapped, area in a lot of communities and schools. I think a lot of parents understand and realize how powerful their voice can be, and if their kids are playing sports in high school, they can activate that voice and be a champion for additional support services for their student athlete is unique, and it also is a tremendous opportunity to learn. It is an untapped educational area in high schools. We don't have this right yet. Now, a lot of us are working on it. There's a lot of good people out here that are doing things right, coaches, academic support, etc. But parents are a critical cog in this. They can get active. They can convince their administration. They can talk to their school district people and their school boards about, hey, we've got to figure out better ways to support our kids, especially now in this time, where mental health and wellness and holistic student development is at the forefront on everybody's mind in education on how we serve our kids better. So yeah, parents, get active. How can we help you do that?
And I would say at the collegiate level, we meet with a lot of parents through the recruiting process, and we don't want to talk about the sport. And there's a lot of facilities and a lot of facility tours, and they want to show the students the glamorous things that happen on Saturdays when that ball gets kicked off, or when we tip it up in the Xfinity Center here at Maryland. But we're more focused on what happens off the field and court, that we're developing these young men and women as people that can go out into the communities and make a difference when athletics ends. And what I say to parents, and it's interesting because my philosophy sort of changed after I became a parent myself, is I was all about, well, they're 18, they're adults, and we can't share any information about how they're doing due to the Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act. And then I became a parent, and I know what it's like to want to continue to support your son or daughter. And we welcome phone calls, we welcome meetings with parents because they've raised their son or daughters for a long time, and they know what motivates them best. And so we encourage parent involvement from the day that they step on campus for orientation until they walk across the stage at graduation. And so I would say, as a piece of advice, stay active and stay engaged, and don't hesitate to reach out to the athletic academic counselors and just check in. Hey, how's he doing? Have you gotten some mid-semester grades? What's his behavior like? What's his attendance? And how might we continue to support him from home?
Well, gentlemen, hey, you definitely provided some great information this morning, and thank you for this here wonderful conference that the University of Maryland decided to host, and 3A's decided to, or AFLAC decided to put on. And I look forward to just getting more and more information to share for our parents and our listening audience as we move forward in making this a collective effort and getting the best out of what we can get out of our children.
Great question. And I would start early and often as parents to research what universities provide in the form of academic support for student athletes. Get research on the websites, figure out what colleges and majors and the structure of certain universities and what student services that they have to offer. And oftentimes we get questions after the parents leave campus, and that's totally fine too. But what we talk to the student athletes about to be successful really in that first year and during their time at college, it's all about attendance, it's all about attitude, it's all about achievement, which ultimately leads to academic success. And so just do the little things right, and the little things lead to the big things. And ultimately for us, that's graduation. So appreciate y'all having me here this morning, and it's been an honor and a joy. I look forward to continue the work with y'all.
Appreciate you stopping by, sir. And Jeff?
Yeah, I think for parents, if you have a young athlete, student athlete at home, you got to start early with what are these life lessons that they're learning about themselves off the field or off the court, and really ask these youth sport coaches, You know, is this part of what you're doing? And I know this is hard in a lot of venues and areas that there's volunteer coaches and they have different backgrounds. But I think as a parent, if your kid is playing sports, I think it's never too early to start asking questions of the coaches of, hey, how are we doing this? Like, how are we helping kids understand these other pieces, like their own development or some of these mental skills or life skills that are so important, you know, for sport and the transition afterward. You know, why aren't we starting that early? Why aren't we asking the youth sport coaches these questions instead of just rolling the balls out or setting up all the drills? Are there any connection points happening with the other pieces? Parents can really be advocates for that at any level, you know. So I guess that would be my tip, is to get after it early. And if coaches are ill-equipped, then you as parents get together, get the resources, and start to do it yourselves. You know, start to help kids and other parents understand what is happening out there, and really tap into this, again, untapped educational platform that exists through sport at all levels.
And that's all powerful tips there, parents. You know what that tells you? You don't know what you don't know. Get a copy of the Sports Parents Guide, written by moi, M.H. Scott. You don't know what you don't know, the Sports Parents Guide. And it gives you some of these very same, provide you with a plethora of other information from, man, the young life of a professional athlete all the way through to his professional career. So, hey, thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate you today, and look forward to supporting the rest of the endeavor throughout the rest of the couple of days. So, hey, have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get out of order with Miss Roni. Your ass mine. Every little thing you want, every little thing you need. Keep it around yourself, my love, 'cause it really don't matter to me. Hey baby, my name is Calderoni Baker. Some people call me Big Mama, but as you can see, I ain't Big Mama, all right? I ain't 90 years old, I ain't about to clock out. My favorite football team is the team that won last Sunday, baby. That's how I roll, amen? Because we do things decent and in order. Hey babies, welcome back to Big Mama's Fireside Chat. So glad to see y'all again. I got another great question in my bag this week, and it is, should my kid play all summer long? What is the downfall of my kid playing in the fall, in the spring, and the summer? What is the downfall? What are the negatives of my kid playing all year round? Ooh, this is a good one. Baby, let me tell you something. Big Mama Roni been around sports for over 50. He didn't play but in our season, but we played multiple sports. If we played baseball, we played different sports. There wasn't a whole lot of specialization. And then in the summers, baby, we was out playing with our friends. That's what we were doing. These days, y'all got y'all kids from sun up to sundown, from January 1 to January 1 of the next year, playing in some kind of sport, baby. The downfall, you ask? I want you to imagine if you had a job, and some of you do, where you stood on your feet from 12 midnight to 12 midnight the next day. Stood on your feet, making the same motion for 24 hours. Now I want you to multiply that times 30 days. That's essentially what your kids are doing. They are taxing their bodies unnecessarily for what? Scholarship? I'm gonna tell you something else, baby. I ain't no doctor, but I've been around sports long enough to know that the wear and tear on your kids' bodies, on your body for that matter, if we're talking about you, we're talking about an old person, is gonna catch up with you. I've seen a lot of kids have overuse injuries, right? They're playing so many hours. They got plantar fasciitis, ACLs, MCLs, torn rotator cuffs. The body was not made to play sports 12 months out of the year for multiple years. And you wonder why your kid got nagging injuries at 14 years old. What a kid at 14 years old doing with nagging injuries. You wonder why when your kid go to college, if they go to college, freshman year they're injured. They ain't had a break, baby. They have not properly restored their bodies. But all y'all seem to care about is that they getting seen. All y'all seem to care about is the perception that your kid is doing everything necessary to look like they at the top of their class. Parents, we got to do better. We got to push back. We got to push back on these leagues and these events. We got to push back on our own kids. Some of y'all scared of your kids. Y'all won't never admit that. Y'all don't want to tell nobody that. But some tell your kids no. Make your kids rest. Make your kids take a break, a mental health break. Every time somebody going, y'all got to go. My mama used to say, let me tell you something, girl. Every time they going, you ain't going. Every time they going, you ain't going. My mama was teaching me discipline. She was teaching me to stop following the crowd. Figure out what you need to do. I know I got a little bit off track, but it's still relevant. Kids playing all the time is going to catch up with them. If it ain't mentally going to catch up with them, physically it's going to catch up with them. So don't be afraid to help your kid help themselves. What's that boy's name in Jerry Maguire movie? Help me help you. Sometimes you got to be the mama. Sometimes you got to be the daddy. Sometimes you got to get out of your ego. Let kids be kids. Taking a month off, taking a tournament off, ain't really gonna hurt nobody. Matter of fact, it's probably gonna help in the long run. All right, so I thank you for that question. That was another good one, y'all. Big Mama Ronnie will see y'all next week. Be safe.
And you know, you all got me here. I'm gonna be real as I can be. And dance is more than doing a booty step, doing a stripper step, and imitating the game. You stay in second position with dance is the second position. You know, you can go where he goes. But the minute he sees you cross, he's gone. Okay, so it's just I even talked to Magic once about it. I said, Magic, we should make a book. Technique of dance meets the technique of basketball. So probably great dancers, but because they don't have all this, but the reason that you go to different dance classes, so I go to Karen's class, I go to your class, and you teach a certain style, and you teach a certain style. So when we get to an audition, you go, oh wow, that's Karen's style. This is not a high school talent show that we're doing. We're trying to really be professionals. Then I have a thing, this is not Church of God in Christ. This is supposed to be forgiven in church. Okay? But in show business, we pay real money for us to see the entertainers, so we expect you to be professional.